Like most people who collect ancient coins, I've never really thought of my collection as a financial investment. Here, for example, I have a tetradrachm of Athens from the 4th century BC. It's not a great specimen. The flan was too small, and so it's not highly priced. But for me, it's a wonderful evocation of the city of Demosthenes and Plato. Or take, for example, this drachma of Alexander, quite worn and correspondingly cheap on the market, but all that wear and tear helps me visualize the brave new world of Alexander's empire. Or take, finally, this Sestertius of Hadrian. The edges are chipped, and the reverse is a minefield, but the portrait, with its thoughtful gaze, is for me a wonderful masterpiece in miniature, a bit of classical art I can own, a glimpse into the world of Hadrian, the restless emperor. For me, in short, a coin's price is a very small part of its value, and that's true of many collectors. Recently, however, thanks to raging inflation, an erratic stock market, and a number of high-profile auctions, there's been a surge of interest in ancient coins as an investment. So I decided to visit Harlan J. Berk Coins here in Chicago and ask manager Aaron Berk to explain how the ancient coin market works. Just in case it isn't clear from what follows, nothing in this video is intended to serve as investment advice.
So how has the market for ancient coins changed over the past, say, 20 years? And how's it changed since the pandemic?
So it really comes down to one thing, the internet. The internet has changed everything in all of our lives, and especially in ancient coins, because now we have, or any collectible, really, because now we have transparency. Back in the day, to be a good researcher of ancient coins, you had to get a lot of books, a lot of catalogs, and you had to do a lot of research to figure out pricing. Now you can pretty much go online. There's a couple great websites like Coin Archives, AC Search, where you can go in and you can look at every auction worldwide and see what the current market is and see how it's fluctuating month to month. And so that's one huge change that we never had. Obviously, we're getting much more exposure to ancient coins through the internet than we ever had before. And so it's still a very undervalued market because a lot of people still, the general public still doesn't realize that you can buy ancient coins for a reasonable price. And so, but it's definitely taken off in the last few years. As far as COVID, our market has exploded. And part of that is because people were home, they were bored, and they were looking for things to do. So hobbies became something that really exploded during the pandemic. And so we saw our numbers explode during the pandemic and collecting go way up.
So what are the blue chip ancient coins, the ones that always seem to have value?
Well, it comes down to whether you want to collect Greek or Roman. Typically, you have Byzantine, which is really just the late Romans, but it comes down to Greek or Roman. In Greek coins, you have the Syracuse, any of the Syracuse material, any coins from Sicily in silver, always high demand because it's the highest quality of art. In Sicilian coinage, you have the decadrams, you have the tetradrams. In Italian, you have the Tarentum. You have, I think there's definitely typesets when it comes to Greek. A lot of people will collect the coins of Aegina, which has the turtle. They like animals. Pegasus, so they'll do Corinth or one of those types, one of those city types. You will do Metapontum because of the wheat. You will do Posidonia because of the style of the strike and the way that it's an incuse as opposed to the way the rest of the coins are.
So which Roman coins are in highest demand?
I would say the 12 Caesars is definitely the most popular of all the area. Everyone's heard of the 12 Caesars, and so it's definitely collected, ferociously. And then I would say some of the more popular coins is like Augustus with Comet is a very popular one. Biblical coins are extremely popular, whether it's any of the Judea Capta coins of Vespasian, And then there's the famous coins like the Titus Colosseum, and of course the EID MAR. So this is probably the first time you'll ever see a gold and silver EID MAR together, both with holes. And so you would think in general holes do destroy the value of coins, but in this case these coins are so sought after and so rare that it still holds its value pretty well. As far as the gold goes, there's only 3 in existence. This was issued between 43 and 42 BC. And this one has a rich history, and it's gone up in value from 120,000 to 400,000 now to all in with commissions $2.6 million. As far as the one on the left, the silver EID MAR, this has actually got a rich history as well. It was actually found in Joppa in the probably early 1900s or late 1800s. It was then published in 1948 by the Leeds Museum. It was then published by the English Numismatic Society or the British Society in 1955, and then in the Spring Circular in 1982. And the bracelet was all found together. The coins were found together and then put into a bracelet. And so as far as values, the silver one here on the left maybe would have only sold for $2,000 or $3,000 maybe 30 years ago, and now we're asking $115,000 based on the fact that true EID MARs in silver without holes are bringing between $300,000 and $500,000. And most don't have a pedigree before 1970, where this one does. The gold one here on the right also has a pedigree before 1970, which obviously helps with the value of these things as well. I still think that overall, because these things are selling at a huge premium, they're going to hold their value because they are coins that people will always desire and want to own.
The skyrocketing value of the EID MAR coins reflects the steadily rising prices of other high-end collectibles. The upward trend has been especially dramatic in the case of modern art. Thanks to steady, long-term appreciation, the prices of works by world-renowned artists have outperformed the S&P 500 by 164% for the past 26 years. Sensing the trend, the world's wealthiest investors have long made art part of their portfolios. Few of us can afford a Picasso. But now, thanks to Masterworks, the sponsor of this video, anybody can buy shares of contemporary blue-chip art. Getting started with Masterworks takes only a few clicks. After creating an account, all you have to do is choose the artworks in which you'd like to invest. Once you've made your selections, you can either wait for your paintings to sell or pass your shares to another investor through Masterworks' secondary market. There's currently a waitlist to join Masterworks, but if you follow the link on screen, which you'll also find in the description, you can skip the waitlist and sign up today. Back to our interview.
Are there cycles in the prices of ancient coins? And how closely tied are ancient coin prices to the economy as a whole?
There's for sure cycles. It usually goes between Greek and Roman, and then some of the subcategories. But for instance, especially more at the higher end level, the upper 5% of the market, if a couple of billionaires or more decide they want to collect Greek coins and they fight over it, they pretty much knock everybody else out of that market. And so those people end up with nothing to collect at the high end, so they end up moving into other markets typically because they still are hardcore collectors. And so one example of that is when the Sheikh of Qatar was buying in the 2010-9 to 2011-12 period. He was driving out all of the people from Greek coins. And so we saw a big surge in Roman gold, as well as some of the Republican imperatorial areas as well. And then when he passed away and got out of the market, we saw another surge back to Greek coins. So now Greek coins are very, very strong, where I see some of the Roman gold coming down in price. And so it also comes down to how how clients have been satisfied. So if they fill their collections and they're done collecting, you're waiting for the next cycle of collectors to come through that need to buy those coins. And also when those collectors who bought those coins decide to sell their collection, that obviously stimulates the market because you're going to have a lot more supply of those types of coins on the market.
And as for the larger economy, is it closely tied to economic cycles, as far as you can tell, or not really?
I would say at the high end, it's not. I would say in the middle and low end, it is, for sure. And for most dealers like myself, we're happy to serve all clients, whether they're spending $50 or they're spending $1 million. And so I would say a lot of our bread and butter sales are people that spend under $2,000. And so a lot of those people end up going away when the economy is having trouble. And so, then you are focused on your higher end clients, and it's never good to focus just on high-end clients because that doesn't help you build your business. And so ultimately, the wealthy always get wealthier during hard times. The middle and low end, they get poorer, or they have less money or less disposable income to work with. So we definitely see those cycles and feel those cycles.
How much does provenance affect value?
Anything before 1970, and there's a UNESCO treaty from 1970 that says that museums and institutions cannot buy anything that doesn't show proof of ownership outside of the source country before 1970. They can't purchase. That was to keep them from buying looted material after 1970. So anything pre-1970, you can figure a 20 to 40% increase in price, sometimes even higher depending on the collection and the rarity of the coin. To date, is not illegal to own any ancient coins in any country. What it is it has to do with what can move in and out of countries. So, for instance, nothing is supposed to be allowed to leave source country. It's illegal to take anything out. In Germany now, there's a law that states that if it doesn't have a 20-year pedigree, it can't leave Germany. It can be sold in Germany, it can be owned in Germany, but it can't leave Germany without that early pedigree. In the United States, there are no laws on the books that says we can't own any coins, but people will collect pre-1970 coins because they are problem-free for moving in and out of countries around the world. And they can also be donated to museums down the road. And that is a huge advantage to the high-end collector.
Have any recent discoveries changed the value of an important class of coins?
So groups of coins coming on the market, again, it comes down to supply and demand. So there was a large group of Athens tetradrachms. Some say it was 30,000 coins. Some say it was 80,000 coins. Nobody really knows. But one way you know that there's a large group, either it's a collection or a new hoard that was found, and sometimes we don't know which one it is, you'll see every single coin dealer, every single auction house have multiple types of the same coinage.
So how does the market for ancient coins compare to, say, the market for American coins?
So it really comes down to simple economics, supply and demand. The demand for high-end classic U.S. coins extremely high, where in ancient coins, we only have broken the $1 million mark maybe 5 to 7 times. And that most of that happened in the last 2 to 3 years. In U.S. coins, it happens constantly. And so it is not unusual for a coin to sell for millions of dollars. The highest price paid ever for an ancient coin is the second EID MAR that was sold at Roma in 2020 for $4.2 million all in, where there was a U.S. coin, the 1933 Gold Eagle, that sold for $18 million. Just a couple summers ago. So really there is no comparison between the two. It's vast. If you talk to most people, they have somebody in their family tree that has collected U.S. coins. A grandma and grandpa put U.S. coins away that was found in circulation. Ancient coins as a whole is kind of a newer phenomenon in the United States, not so much in Europe because that was their heritage in some cases, but here in the United States it's definitely much newer. And my father, who started in 1964, was kind of one of the earlier pioneers of ancient coins here in the United States. And they were really, as he would put it, riding on the coattails of the Europeans. And now we're kind of definitely more in line with them as far as our academia and our our collecting enjoyment of the hobby. Coins have always been a good investment, but I don't sell them as investment. I sell them for the love and the passion of the collecting of the hobby, because I can't, as a dealer, tell you whether or not a coin is going to go up or down in value. I sell at market price. So when collecting coins, if somebody tells you this is a great investment, run, because that's not good advice, and they're probably ripping you off. I think that if you buy properly, if you use a dealer that's reputable, and you follow their lead, and you know that they're not blowing smoke, then you're probably going to do good over the long haul. If you find a dealer that has a really good eye for aesthetics, and you listen to them and you learn from them, you will end up building yourself a beautiful collection that will hopefully garner some value down the road.
Thanks again to Aaron Berk for sharing his expertise. As I hope this video has made clear, the market for ancient coins is complicated. Unless you know that market very well, and even if you do, any investment is risky. Spend time before you spend money. If nothing else, you'll learn more about ancient history than you ever thought possible, and that sort of investment, in this ancient historian's opinion, always pays dividends. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Told in Stone on Patreon. You might also enjoy my book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants. Thanks for watching.